3.8% of blacks are living through psychological distress compared to 3.1% of whites. Now, the numbers may seem close. 3.8% of black people as opposed to 3.1% of white people. But now consider the statistics. There's about 309, in the last census, there was 309 million people in America. Black people only comprise about 13% of that population. So 3.8% is still a lot of people compared to the amount of black people that exist in the United States. So that's a lot of mentally ill black people that are distressed in America. Serious psychological distress among adults 18 years or over based on a percentage of poverty level. Now, based on poverty level, white people are more distressed than black people because we're able to live under the stress of poverty because that's what we're used to. So a white person living at poverty level is 10% more chance of psychological distress as an African-American person is only 8% because, once again, they can't handle the stress of poverty. But going to the previous stat, we're just more stressed out than anybody else based on the madness and the blindness and astonishment of heart. Now, with the astonishment of heart, is things are going to happen to us that we're not going to be able to control. Things happen to us that don't happen to anybody else. But people are, when things happen to other people, they're able to control it. So astonishment of heart is Sandra Bland. Right. Astonishment of heart is Tamir Rice. Astonishment of heart is Akai Gurley. Astonishment of heart is Ramadi Gray. Astonishment of heart is Sean Bell. Astonishment of heart is Freddie Gray. Astonishment of heart is Trayvon Martin. Astonishment of heart is Troy Davis. Astonishment of heart is Renisha McBride. Astonishment of heart is anybody that you can think of, Eric Garner, Michael Brown. Things happen to us and we're astonished at the fact that these things happen to us and there's nothing that we can do against it. Also, like I asked earlier, astonishment of heart is Walter Scott. Astonishment of heart is Samuel Du Bois. Astonishment of heart is Yusuf Hawkins. Astonishment of heart is Eleanor Bumpers. Astonishment of heart is Rodney King. You have to keep naming the names or we'll be here all day. But that's astonishment of heart that things are happening to the children of Israel, who they call black people, but yet nothing is able, or we are not able to have no power in our hands to do anything that happens against us. So therefore, because of poverty level, and because of racism, we're in madness and astonishment of heart. Because as you're going to read in the next verse, it says here, we're going to be groping at noonday at the darkness.
And thou shalt grope at noonday, as the blind gropes in darkness, and thou shalt not make thy way prosperous, and you shall be only oppressed and robbed always, and there shall be none to save thee.
So no matter what we do, or what happens to us, no justice, and there will be no peace. There'll be peace amongst those that are not given the justice, but there'll be no peace amongst those that are receiving the injustice. So we can chant no justice, no peace, only one. But we are the only ones that are not having peace as we're having no justice. Because everybody else is receiving, the glamorous life, the comfortable life, but the children of Israel are receiving injustice and no peace. So we're gonna grow, we're gonna be complain, we're gonna get upset, we're gonna be mad, we're gonna be poor, we're gonna be broke, we're gonna be broken down mentally, physically, and spiritually, and there's gonna be no one to help us. We have to turn to Jehovah God for our salvation, because He's the only one that can change, that can save the children of Israel and change what's happening to us for the better. Continue.
Verse 30, you shall betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. You shall build a house, and you shall not dwell therein. You shall plant a vineyard, and shall not use the fruit thereof. Your ox shall be slain before your eyes, and you shall not eat thereof. Your ass shall be violently taken away from before thy face, and shall not be restored to you. Your sheep shall be given unto your enemies, and you shall have none to save you.
So no matter what happens to us, no one's going to save us. We could go to various religions; those gods are not going to save us. When we want to receive justice, we want to see correct things, we want to receive the right things in life. We have to turn to the source of the one that gives that right, which is Jehovah our God. If we turn away from Him, then we're going to receive that injustice. So we're going to have wives get engaged, but somebody else is going to lie with them. We know that in slavery, we were not able to keep our families together because the slave master took our women from us and sent them back to us to our homes. But we know that the slave master was sleeping with our wives all throughout that period of slavery. So they also broke up the homes, kept some of the women in the house while the man was working the field. So this prophecy or this punishment pursued the children of Israel from the land of Israel all the way up until today. So even in the Caribbean, this was happening. Slave masters were taking women, taking slave women, and they had to be laws that were made as a result of that. Because especially in the Caribbean, a bulk of the people that came from Europe or England dwelt in the Caribbean. There was very few of the English that actually came to the Americas. Most of them went to the Caribbean and then brought the slaves afterwards. So those men needed women. So they took their women, because they didn't bring their women from England. They didn't bring their women from Ireland. They didn't bring their women from Scotland. They took the slave women that came off those slave ships. As a result, we had wives, but when they are not able to keep them because the slave master took them from us. Continue.
Verse 32. Your sons and your daughters shall be given unto another people, and your eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day, and there shall be naught in the power of your hand.
Which happened to us when we came out of slavery. In slavery, our sons and our daughters were taken away from us. Families were broken, homes were broken up as a result of the transatlantic slave trade. That they went into Africa, to West Africa, took slaves from there, regardless of what family they belonged to, took the sons and the daughters, separated them from the parents, and brought them here. And even here, families were broken up. Because as the white people in America decided to expand further west, they broke up the slave families also. There's a report that 1 in every 3rd child was taken away from their parent during the east, going further west. So as they wanted to claim more land, they decided to take slaves with them, and the slaves were broken up. Not by families, but they just took individuals to go with them as they traveled. So our sons and our daughters were violently taken away from us, and there was none that could save us. We were, at the time, in African religions, when we came here into this country and into the Caribbean, and those gods couldn't save us. Eventually, we went into Christianity in this country, and that God couldn't save us, because only Jehovah, our God, could save us, because our families were broken up. And no matter how much we bow down to those idols, in Yoruba or in Christianity, neither one could save us. Continue.
Verse 33. The fruit of your land and all your labor shall a nation which you know not eat up, and you shall be only oppressed and crushed away, so that you shall be mad for the sight of your eyes, which you shall see.
So all these things, once again, are happening to us, and we're upset. We're mad because there's nothing that we can do to save ourselves. So we're mad at the sight of our eyes because we're being oppressed, because we're being crushed. Nations are coming, it's going back to now referring to the land of Israel. Nations are coming into that land, which we don't even know where they came from, and destroying us. Nations that are coming from different places because the Most High God is sending those nations to attack the children of Israel. So no matter what we do, unless we turn back to Jehovah our God, there is nothing that we can do to save ourselves. Continue.
Verse 35. Your whole smite thee in the knees and in the legs with a sore boil, whereof you cannot be healed, from the sole of your foot unto the crown of your head.
So sicknesses will attack the children of Israel, and it's going to attack the children of Israel in record numbers. It's going to talk more about sicknesses later in the chapter, so we'll deal with that when we get there. But the Most High God is saying that He's going to smite our knees. So we have arthritis, smite us in the legs, all types of pains, all types of aches, the sore boil, and we won't be able to be healed from these things. Rheumatism, all types of things are going to attack our skeletal system, and osteoporosis, all types of things are going to attack us, and there's nothing that we're going to be able to do to heal ourselves from these things. Continue.
Verse 36. Behold, bring thee and your king, whom you shall set over you, unto a nation that thou hast not known, thou nor thy fathers. And there shalt thou serve other gods, wood and stone.
That verse speaks about two people. The person that is enslaved and the enslaved. Jehovah will bring thee and thy king, whom thou set over thee, unto a nation that thou hast not known. The United States was not known to the children of Israel when we came here.
Right.
And in this nation that our fathers didn't know about, here we will serve gods of wood and stone. So this is where we see why we're into Christianity today. Because the Most High God has already prescribed that we would go to a foreign nation that our fathers didn't know about. Abraham never knew about the United States of America. Isaac didn't know about it, neither did Jacob, neither did Moses, neither did Joshua, neither did Isaiah, neither did Jeremiah. None of our fathers knew about the United States of America, but the Most High God already knew that this was going to happen to the children of Israel, that they disobeyed him. So as a result, he sent a nation that we did not know to come and get us and cause us to bow down to idols or worship gods of wood and stone, which only happened to the black people that came here into this country and into the Caribbean that are today populate Christianity in record numbers, even after being enslaved for so long. People wonder how is it that slaves found themselves in Christianity when Christianity was given to the slaves after we got here. So there must have been something that we were doing before we got here. So how is it that we attach ourselves to the religion of slave masters as opposed to trying to seek the true and the living God as a result? But today in the Americas, we are in record numbers in Christianity as a result of slavery. Continue.
37. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all the people, whither Yahweh shall lead thee away.
So people will be astonished at us. They'll wonder how is it that we have become the people that we have become. They're astonished at our character. They're astonished at how low that we have become. And we become a proverb. They'll become all types of sayings that are made up about black people. And then the byword comes from the root word of shanan, which is a word that stings, a word that bites, a word that cuts. We face many of those words. The N-word, Sambo, coon, even black, even monkey, African American, animal, beast. We are the ones that face these bywords. Nobody else had more bywords about them than us.
That's right.
So as we continue to read, we're seeing that we are the ones that fit this category because nobody else had become an astonishment on the face of the earth. No one has more proverbs said about them. No one has more bywords said about them than the quote-unquote blacks that they brought from Africa into this part of the world. Continue.
Verse 38. You shall carry much seed out into the field, and shall gather little in, for the locust shall consume it. You shall plant vineyards and dress them, but you shall neither drink of the wine, nor gather the grapes, for the worm shall eat them. You shall have olive trees throughout all your borders, but you shall not anoint yourself with the oil, for your olives shall drop off. You shall beget sons and daughters, but they shall not be yours, for they shall go into captivity.
That's a recurrent theme in this chapter, is captivity. It goes back into the land and talks about the locusts and all types of beasts attacking our crops. Then goes right back into captivity. Talk about our sons and our daughters going into captivity. It's about the third time it talks about captivity. The second time our sons and daughters going into captivity, and then the one time we talked about the king and the people going into captivity. So this recurrent theme keeps appearing in the chapter where the children of Israel will go into captivity because of disobedience. So when we put everything together, we see that the children of Israel have to be the black people that came from Africa and enslaved, because we're the only ones that went through so much captivity in the face of the earth. Nobody, the other nations have been enslaved to their same people, but no one else has been enslaved in record numbers like we have to other people. Because a lot of the slavery is talking about nations coming against the children of Israel that they don't know about. And it's going to happen, it's going to come up again. Continue.
42. All your trees and the fruit of your land shall the locust possess. The stranger that is in the midst of you shall mount up above you, higher and higher, and you shall come down, lower and lower. He shall lend to you, and you shall not lend to him. He shall be the head, and you shall be the tail. And all these curses shall come upon you, and shall pursue you, and overtake you, till you be destroyed, because you did not hearken unto the voice of Yahweh your God, to keep his commandments and his statutes, which he commanded you.
So as we are amongst these nations, these foreign nations are foreign to us, as it says they're going to rise higher above us, and we're going to be brought down very low. They will be the head, and we will be the tail. That we will borrow from them, but they won't borrow from us. And we live, what I said earlier, many of us live below the poverty level, so we are always the ones that want to borrow. We don't have our own banks. When we try to establish our own banks, it destroys cities just because of that. We know about what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma. When we try to establish our own communities, have our own banks, that it was destroy on the banks of foreigners to sustain ourselves. And because our credit scores are so low, they don't have to lend them to us. So we can try all we want to borrow, but because they're above us, they won't have to lend to us. As it says here, and this is talking about education, then it's going to talk about the poverty level a little bit. In 2011, similar to other racial and ethnic minorities, adults aged 25 and older, African American adults had a larger percentage who did not complete high school compared with white people. Also, a larger percentage of African American adults lived below the poverty level and were unemployed compared with white adults. So in this country, there's going to be more of us, as it's prescribed here, living below that poverty level, always looking for that handout, and we're going to be subjected to the word no because of our level, our income level, our credit rating, and all of that. They have the responsibility, or they have the idea that they can always tell us no. But we are the ones that are always going to be seeking to borrow from others as opposed to lending to others. But all this is as a result of what we did to the Most High God. So we can never blame white people for what they're doing unto us, because this is what we have done in the sight of the Most High God by disobeying Him. And as a result, He has sent these nations against us to attack us and all of these things that happen to us even today. And it said that all these curses will pursue us. So no matter where we go upon the face of the earth, we are the ones that are going to face these low poverty levels. The unemployment level is going to be, in record numbers, and we are the ones that are going to be downtrodden and oppressed because we have sinned against the Most High God. Continue.
Verse 46. And they shall be upon you for a sign and for a wonder, and upon your seed forever, because you did not serve Jehovah your God with joyfulness and with gladness of heart by reason of the abundance of all things.
So the statement actually continues, but just to focus on the fact that it says that all of these things that happen to us will be for a sign and for a wonder upon us and our children forever, because we didn't serve Jehovah our God with joyfulness, with gladness of heart, and by the reason of abundance of all things. So the Most High God gave us a lot of things, the abundance of all things, but we still decided to turn away from Him and worship false gods, and therefore these curses will overtake us. And this chapter is going to be a sign for the children of Israel to wake up. This chapter, these punishments here are signs for the children of Israel to know and understand who they are, and to also be able to know how to get out of this cycle of this punishment that is coming upon them. Continue. Now we're going to go, and it says,
verse 48. Therefore shalt thou serve thy enemy whom Jehovah shall send against thee, in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon your neck until he has destroyed thee.
And once again, that only happened to a particular group of people. You got the picture? Because this image is what we see all the time.
Right.
Of people that came to serve enemies in hunger, in thirst, and nakedness, and want of all things, that have that yoke of iron on their neck until they are destroyed. Yeah. A lot of people are familiar with this picture. And they're very, you got more? This is a specific one? I know. This is a particular one I was looking for. A lot of people know this picture of us coming here with a yoke of iron around our necks. That didn't happen to anybody else but us. We are the only ones that came here shackled and chained compared to anybody else upon the face of the earth. Other people were enslaved. Other people, were subservient to others, but no one else had this type of slavery happen like we had. So no one else could fit the category of verse 48 that says we're going to serve our enemies in hunger, in thirst, in nakedness, and want of all things, and he shall put a yoke of iron upon that neck until he has destroyed you. So therefore, as we read this chapter, it's clear that the children of Israel are the people that were brought here as slaves. And there's various pictures that show our slavery, show us chained up, show that, whenever we were not working in the field, we were chained up. Any picture you see of slaves being carry or being sent as cargo, we were chained up. That only happened to us and no one else. And then they'll continue and say this.
Verse 49. Yahweh will bring a nation against you from afar, from the end of the earth. As the eagle swoops down, a nation whose tongue you shall not understand, a nation of fierce countenance, that shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young.
So once again, going back to that slavery, because we didn't know about the people that came to get us when we were trying to run from God, and we ran to Africa, a nation whose tongue we did not understand. So we were speaking whatever African dialects we were speaking at the time, but we didn't know about English, we didn't know about Dutch, we didn't know about Portuguese.
Right.
Portuguese were one of the biggest sellers of slaves, by the way. It wasn't all about white people or the quote-unquote English person. Portuguese sold record numbers of slaves into Brazil. Matter of fact, just through the slave trade alone, throughout all of the period of time, at least 4 million people, 4 million slaves were transported from Africa into Brazil alone. It wasn't that much going to America. It wasn't as much going into the Caribbean. The largest place or largest amount of slaves after that is going into the Caribbean. Is you would have, besides the 4 million of Brazil, you have about 1 million plus that went into Jamaica, which would become the largest amongst the Caribbean islands. Then below that, about 770,000 went into Cuba, and about the same number, 770,000 went into Hispaniola, which we know today as Haiti and the Dominican Republic. And we see that with so many slaves, we'll just deal with the Dominican Republic and Haiti for the moment. Yeah. 770,000 slaves throughout that whole period of slavery from Africa to Hispaniola or Hispaniola. And yet that island is divided today amongst the Haitians and the Dominican Republic. But yet that entire island comprises of slaves that were brought from Africa. So now it was because one part of the island was owned by the French, the other part was owned by the Spanish. So therefore, that's why that land was divided. But yet all of the slaves came from Africa. So now the Haitians decided to fight for their independence, which they received. But now as a result of the Haitians fighting for their independence, they got the entire island free. So they didn't only push out the French, which were on that side of the island, the Haitians were able to push out the Spanish, which were on the other side of the island, to make sure that all of the slaves on the entire island were free. So now the Dominican slaves now became part of Haiti, because the entire island was actually one. But now, today, the island is split between the Haitians and the Dominican Republic. Now, when the Dominicans celebrate their independence, they don't celebrate the independence from the Spanish, they celebrate the independence from the Haitians. But the Haitians were the ones that were responsible for the entire island being independent, but they allowed the ones that were enslaved to the Spanish to continue to dwell, but it was still under that Haitian government. But after a period of time, they got their own independence. So now, once again, when they celebrate Independence Day, they don't celebrate the revolution that caused them to no longer be slaves. They celebrate the independence that caused them not to be subservient to the Haitians any longer. Wow. So that shows the mentality of our people that come from this madness that the Most High God still will come upon our people, that we celebrate more, not working for one another, as opposed to working for a foreign. That God became upon that stigma, that curse, attached to some use for hell from then even up until today. So these are the type of things that happen to us. And that's just in one island. We could also only imagine what happened to us in this country. But we experienced that with all of the things that happened to us in this country. But it says that the Most High God was sent against us, a nation of fierce countenance that won't show any favor to the old or to the young. Now, the people that came to this country, a lot of them came, most of them came from England. Then the next large group came from Germany. Then you had Scottish, then you had the Irish. But the people that came here from those countries were poor people, and they were convicts. These were not the elite. These were not the people that had jobs. Those people that were elite and had jobs were comfortable in England and Germany and in Ireland and in Scotland. But because of the increase of the population in those European countries and the jails becoming so populated, they gave them one choice. I mean, they gave them two choices: ride in jail or go to America. A lot of them said, we're going to take that free ride and take our chances in America. So a lot of those convicts are what are the forefathers of the people that are in this country today. So when they talk about the people of fierce countenance, it's because the white people in this country are descendants of convicts from England, Scotland, and Ireland. So that's why they became the people that they are today, because their genes are convicts. Their genes are homosexuals, their genes are rapists, their genes are murderers. Therefore, that gene and that trait go through their DNA and comes into them even up until today. So that's why they became the fierce countenance people that they are today, that have no regard for the old or any regard for the young. They don't care about anybody but themselves, because all they knew is they got a free ride out of jail and were able to come here and take care of themselves. And when they got here, they didn't bring anything here but smallpox, influenza, and syphilis, and a sword to kill off the Indians and take over their land. They didn't care about the old Indians, they didn't care about the young Indians, they killed all Indians in order to migrate to this land and take over. And as a result, they said, well, we need the people to work for us. The Indians couldn't take it. The Chinese couldn't take it. But they said there's some slaves, there's black people in Africa that could take this heat, that could work this field. So they brought the slaves, they got free labor. There was a point in time in 1660 where half of the workforce of Virginia was black slaves. When you talk about half of a workforce being slaves, that's free labor. Everybody's chilling, everybody else is chilling. Because you have slaves. That's why Virginia is so upset, because of the emancipation of the slaves. Because they lost half of their workforce, and now they have to work. So that's why when you go through Virginia, you're going to get pulled over automatically, because they're angry at the fact that you're able to drive through their state free. Because they had half of their workforce as free labor. So as a result, we realized that we serve a people of fierce countenance. And I know they teach in schools that slaves came here and black people came here initially as indentured servants. That never happened. Only the English and the Irish came here as indentured servants. Apart from the convicts that came here that were told to fend for themselves, there were people that were poor. They said that go to America, you could work for 3 to 5 years, and after that, we're going to give you some land. No black person was given the opportunity to work for 3 to 5 years. There's slave codes or black codes that took place in this country that said that once you're born a slave, you're always a slave. That's why the South was upset, because of the emancipation of slavery. Even if the slave master had the opportunity to give their slave freedom. But if a slave master, one of the black codes, if a slave master gives a slave freedom, he had to make sure that that slave is transported out of that state. They didn't want any free blacks in their territory. So if a slave master wanted to free a slave because he had compassion upon him, he had to make sure that he got out of that state. Those were one of the black codes that were put upon it. So we serve people that show no regard for the old, no regard for the young, that was swift as the eagle. And it's literal because of the fact that this slavery took place so fast. So between 1619, which was the first slave ship that actually came to America, but before that, many slave ships were going throughout all the islands. But the first one that came here was in 1619. There were 4 million slaves in America in 1860, because that system became so fast. Because they wanted that free labor. The English wanted cotton, and the cotton was growing here. They imported sugar from Persia and brought it to the Caribbean so they could cultivate it in the Caribbean. That's how sugar didn't originate in the Caribbean. They brought it from Persia, but because the people, they didn't want to work so hard for it, they brought it to the Caribbean, then they grew in the Caribbean, and then they brought the slaves to work the sugar, to make sugar, to bring that to England as well. So there was always a connection between England and the United States. Even when the United States fought for their freedom, or the 13 colonies at the time fought for their freedom, there was still that connection, because everybody benefited from the slave trade. Slaves were brought from Africa to the Caribbean and Americas, and as a result, cotton and sugar was brought from Americas to England and to other parts of Europe. So everybody in this earth benefited from that slave trade.
That's right.
Continue.
Verse 51. And he shall eat the fruit of your cattle and the fruit of your ground until you be destroyed. That also shall not leave you corn, wine, or oil, the increase of your kind, or the young of your flock, until he has caused you to perish. And he shall besiege you in all your gates, until your high and fortified walls come down, wherein you did trust throughout all your land. And he shall besiege you in all your gates, throughout all your land, which Jehovah your God has given you. And you shall eat the fruit of your own body, the flesh of your sons and of your daughters, whom Jehovah your God has given you, in the siege and in the straitness wherewith your enemies shall straiten you.
So it goes back to talk about in the land of Israel that we're going to have enemies come into the land and besiege the children of Israel in the land. So within those cities, because of the siege of the straightness, we became cannibals because there was no food coming into the cities. There was already no food growing because the Most High God already stopped the rain from coming down. And now with the enemies surrounding all of our cities, there's definitely no food coming in. So in order for people to survive, people were eating their own children because of that pressure that was upon them, because people had to live. So now it became that crab in the barrel mentality that everybody's fending for themselves in order to survive. Not realizing that everybody's going to eventually die anyway at the hand of the enemy, but everybody wanted to keep themselves alive as long as possible. So we had everybody killing one another, even people or parents killing their children in order to have food to eat. Because it's going to break it down even further. Continue.
Verse 54. The man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eye shall be evil against his brother and against the wife of his bosom and against the remnant of his children whom he has remaining. To any of them of the flesh of his children whom he shall eat, because he has nothing left him. In the siege and in the straightness wherewith thine enemy shall straiten thee in all thy gates.
So even the nicest of people, when pressure comes, they're going to crack. And it says that that nice person or the tender and the delicate person, man, his eye is going to be evil against his brother, against the white bosom, and against the remnant of the children. Literally, and it says he's going to eat his children because he wants to survive. He's going to kill his own children so that he may live. And as a result, once again, this is literal, but this type of spirit or this mentality continues to go on amongst the children of Israel, or what they call black people even today, that men have evil eyes towards one another, evil eyes towards their wives, and evil eyes towards their children. That's why the rate of black crime is so high. You know, homicide is amongst, we're going to get to that, but homicide is number 8 amongst the top 10 killers of black people in America. And a lot of that, we could complain a lot about police killing black people, but the highest number of police killing black people was last year at like about 640 something. We kill more of each other in a day than what police kill us in a year. So our eyes, the eye of the brother is definitely evil against his other brother. And then it says against the wife of his bosom and against the remnant of the children that he leaves. That's why there's so many single parents amongst black families. Out of all the black, this statistic, out of all the black people or black children that are born in this country, 72% are born to unmarried parents. Wow. Now, that's just people that didn't go through the marriage ceremony file for that, so it doesn't mean that you don't have parents that are together. Actually, out of all the black children that are under the age of 18, 31% are living with both their father and their mother. So out of 39 million people, because it's about 39 to 40 million black people in America, only 31% live with both their father and their mother. That's way less than half. Now, the interesting one, 53% of children under the age of 18 live with their mother alone. That's more than half. So more than half of black children in America live with only their mother, which goes into a different subject, which goes beyond the scope of this chapter, but that's a lot. Out of what's remaining now, because we had 31%, 53%, so we have a few percentage left. 7% of children aged 18 and under live with the father alone. 9% of children the age of 18 and under live with neither their parents. So there are more children in foster homes and adopted than live with their fathers. Because fathers are leaving the home. Now, we know about the syndrome that took place in this country. We know about Willie Lynch. We know about how the welfare system was set up. We know about how everything was set up that caused that to happen. But the ultimate cause of that happened is the fact that the children of Israel turned their back on God. So all of these things happen through a natural progression. So we could complain about the welfare system. We could complain about, the stigma that is put upon black men. We could talk about the Willie Lynch syndrome once again. But the fact of the matter is, only 7% of children, of black children, live with the father alone. 31% live with the father and mother. But 53%, which is more than half of black children in America, live with their mother alone. Once again, that 9% is foster homes and adoption. So you have more children, once again, raised enforce the homes through adoption than through their father alone amongst the black families. So this stigma that the Most High God has already specified here, that the tender and delicate man, his eye will be evil against his brother. We see that through the homicide of black violence, and evil towards the wife of his bosom and the children through the fact that there were hardly any black fathers in the household. Continue.
Verse 56. The tender and delicate woman among you, who would not venture to set the sole of her foot upon the ground for delicateness and tenderness, her eye shall be evil against the husband of her bosom, and against her son, and against her daughter, and against her afterbirth that comes out from between her feet, and against her children whom she shall bear. For she shall eat them for want of all things secretly, in the siege and in the straitness, wherewith thy enemies shall straiten thee in thy gates.
So once again, this is literally talking about in the land of Israel, because of the siege and the straitness, because of the enemies surrounding the city and no food coming in, women are going to be evil towards their husbands and towards the children that she had living, and to the afterbirth that comes from her. For she's going to eat her children secretly and not want to share with anybody else, because all she's doing is thinking about herself. So that's the literal aspect. But once again, this mentality or this spirit continued on with women, throughout the slave trade to here in America once again. Now, think what's based on this, you already have a clue right here. What's the #1 killer of black people in this country? Based on what was said just right there. Huh? Birth rate. But what causes that? Abortion is the #1 killer of black people in this country. Here's the statistics. Roe versus Wade was 1973. That's when abortion was actually legalized. There's no abortion before that. From 1973, when abortion was legalized up until today, the lowest figure of the amount of black people that were killed through abortion is 13 million. The highest is 16 million. So anywhere between 13 million and 16 million black babies were killed through abortion in this country from 1973 even up until today. Imagine what 13 million people could do to this nation. With 39 million people right now, we're missing the 13 million right now because of abortion. Here's the most staggering statistic. Per day, well, 35% of all abortions in this country are done by black women. 37% is done by white women. So you say, okay, there's more percentage of white women having abortion than black women. But there's 39 million black people in this country, 30% of the population, as opposed to white people, which is about 65%. So what that translates to by percentage is that every day in this country, every day, and today is September 5th, there's an average of 1,500 black babies that's going to die today through abortion. 1,500 per day die through abortion in this country every day. But compared to white women have, for every 1,000 live births, there's 161 abortions. Compared to 1,000 live black births, there's 472 abortions. We're killing almost half of our population every day through abortions. Come from this, that the woman that was tender and delicate, her eyes gonna be evil even to her worse afterbirth, because she's gonna kill her for children. Wow. We can talk about Margaret Sanger. We know about Planned Parenthood. We know that 72% of Planned Parenthood clinics are in black neighborhoods. We know about all that. The Most High God already said that the woman, her mind is gonna be evil towards the afterbirth. So they're gonna put 100% of, no, they're gonna put 1% of Planned Parenthood abortion clinics in our neighborhoods. We're still gonna be killing off our babies, 400 to 72 for every 1,000.
Right.
So we're killing off our babies in a day more than police are killing us in a year. Black men are killing each other more in a day than police are killing us in a year. Double from women having abortions in a day than police killing us in a year. So when we talk about Black Lives Matter, we got to talk to ourselves first. Because we're killing ourselves at an alarming rate compared to what everybody's doing. But we know about the badness that's going to happen to us. So that's why the names that we mentioned earlier, all of the people that were slain through police violence, we know about that. That's part of our punishment. But we have to look at ourselves as well and see that we're killing ourselves off more than anybody else is doing. And these are abortions based on going to the clinic or the RU486 pill, that Plan B or after morning pill. That's including the statistics. So 470 out of every 1,000, once again, 472 black babies are going in the toilet or in the garbage every day. So we lose a lot of black people. That's why we're not as strong as we are today, because we couldn't know for ourselves. So once again, it could be from 13 million to 16 million black babies that were killed from 1973 to today, September 5th, due to abortion. We have no one else to blame but ourselves. Continue.
Verse 58. If thou wilt not observe to do all the words of this law that are written in this book, that you may fear this glorious and awful name, Yahweh your God, then Yahweh will make your plagues wonderful, and the plagues of your seed, even great plagues, and of long continuance, and sore sicknesses, and of long continuance.
So no matter what, if we, every now and then it turns back to telling us what we have to do to get out of this. Right. But because we don't observe to do the words of this law that are written in this book, therefore the captivity part, most of it is gone now. Right. Now we're going to talk about the sicknesses. God has said he's going to put all these plagues upon us, wonderful plagues. Plagues in our seed, of long continuance and of sore sickness. So he's going to destroy us through murder. Homicide, once again, is the number 8 killer of black people in America. But actually, abortion is the number 1 killer of black people in America. Well, God is also going to kill us off through sickness.
Verse 60, and he will bring back upon you all the diseases of Egypt, which you was in dread of, and they shall cleave unto you.
So now, we're going to talk about something in the next verse, but said, first he's going to bring all of the diseases of Egypt. Now, when you study Egyptian history, you see that they were a sickly people. As great as they were, in ancient history, they were a very sickly people because, number one, they didn't get a lot of rain in their land. Number two, because of the overflow of the river happened ever so often, you have stagnant water all over the place. When you have stagnant water, you get mosquitoes. When you get mosquitoes, you get malaria. So Egyptians were full of malaria. They were full of influenza. They were full of smallpox. They were full of tuberculosis. Which is the same thing that attacked us today. So the Most High God said he first bring the diseases or the sicknesses of Egypt to attack us. So once again, smallpox, the flu, tuberculosis, those are the major things. Malaria, which attacked us as well, which is why we have sickle cell anemia, which is the result of malaria. Or sickle cell anemia is actually a defense against malaria, but it causes other problems. So all of those sicknesses, and they were full of parasites in Egypt. They had a lot of parasitical, if that's the word, diseases in Egypt because of, number one, because of the way they lived. A lot of insects, a lot of biting insects, scarabs, scorpions were biting them. As a result, they got infections. Also, they had a high rate of trichinella, which is a disease which comes from eating pork, which attacks us today. We get trichinella. That only comes through eating pork. Because there's a parasite that's only in pig that when they die and we eat it, as a result, we get trichinella. So these are the diseases of Egypt that Most High God is going to attack us even today. But he's going to go beyond it and say this.
Verse 61. Also, every sickness and every plague which is not written in the book of this law, then will Yahweh bring upon you until you be destroyed. So beyond the smallpox, flu, tuberculosis, we're going to get diseases that are not written in this book. Now let's talk about the deadly diseases that attack black people today. The number 1 cause of death amongst black Americans is heart disease. Number 2 is cancer. Number 3 is stroke. Number 4 is unintentional injuries, which is just things that happen, car accidents, workplace accidents. That's number 4. Diabetes is number 5. Chronic lower respiratory nephritis, or this is number 7. Nephritis syndrome, and nephrosis, the kidney diseases, number 7. Homicide is number 8. Number 9 is sepsis, which is basically tissue damage, which is an organ failure that comes about through infection. Number 10 is Alzheimer's disease. Those are the 10. They're not going to put abortion in there because that's not a statistic that they care about. But now here's the comparisons. African Americans in 2009 had the largest death rate from heart disease and stroke compared with other racial and ethnic populations. These disparities in deaths were also found across age groups younger than 85 years of age. From 2007 to 2010, the largest prevalence of hypertension was among adults aged 65 years and older and African American adults.
The prevalence of obesity among adults from 2007 to 2010 was largest among African American women compared with white and Mexican American women. And overall obesity prevalence of both sexes combined, African American adults with the largest prevalence compared to white and Mexican American adults. 2010, the prevalence of the diabetes among African American adults was nearly twice as large as the prevalence among white adults. Although the difference in the number of years of expected life-free activity limitations caused by chronic conditions decreased between white and African American adults from 1999 to 2008, the number of years was still less for African American adults than white Americans. Meaning, once we have a chronic condition, there's a chance of us dying more from that chronic condition than a white American does. It also mentioned before, diabetes. We have twice the rate of diabetes in this country than the hypertension. Most people know is actually high blood pressure. So we have more high blood pressure than anybody else in this country. Infants of African American women in 2008 had the largest death rate, which is more than twice the rate among infants of white women. African Americans in 2009 had the largest death rates from homicide among all racial and ethnic populations. Rates among African American males were the largest across all age groups. African American adults in 2010 had the largest HIV infection rate compared with rates among adults of other racial and ethnic populations. So no matter, we have the highest rate of HIV infections compared to everybody else. In African Americans had the largest incidence and death rates from colorectal cancer or colon cancer in 2008 compared with all other racial ethnic populations, despite having colorectal screening rates similar to the rate among white adults. So we get screened at the same rate, but we die more from colon cancer than white people die. Additionally, all of the gap is narrowing. In 2011, the average American population, that's everybody, could expect to live 78.7 years, while the average African American could only expect to live 75.3 years. That's below the average, compared to white Americans, who get 78.8 years. So they live more above the average life expectancy than we do. There's another one here. Don't get sad yet. There's more. Diabetes is 60% more common in Black Americans than in white Americans. Blacks are up to 2.5 times more likely to suffer a limb amputation and up to 4.6 times more likely to suffer kidney disease than other people with diabetes. The original statistics were from the CDC, the Center of Disease Control. This one is from just statistics from WebMD. So some of it's going to be pretty much the same, like the statistics on diabetes being more amongst us than them. African Americans are 3 times more likely to die of asthma than white Americans. Deaths from lung scarring, sarcoidosis, are 16 times more common among Blacks than among whites. Now, if you remember Reggie White, NFL star, he died from this lung scarring. So it's saying that we are 16 times more likely to die from lung scarring than white people. Now, despite lower tobacco exposure, Black men are 50% more likely than white men to get lung cancer. So even though we don't smoke, and we're not around smokers, we have 50% more of lung cancer among Black people than white people, that they smoke all day. That's part of this punishment that the Most High God has given us. That even if we try to run from it, the Most High God already said that this punishment will pursue us. We can try not smoking and still get lung cancer. Stroke killed 4 times more 35 to 54-year-old Black Americans than white Americans. Blacks have nearly twice the first-time stroke risk of whites. Blacks develop high blood pressure earlier in life and with much higher blood pressure levels. So we have high blood pressure numbers, and the level of our blood pressure is higher than anybody else. Nearly 42% of Black men and more than 45% of Black women aged 20 and older have high blood pressure. So that's almost half of Black people in America that have hypertension or high blood pressure. Cancer treatment is equally successful for all races. Yet Black men have a 40% higher cancer death rate than white men. So no matter, the treatment is the same amongst all racial barriers, but 40% more of Black men died than white men died of cancer. And African American women have a 20% higher cancer death rate than the white women, the white counterparts. Black American children are 3 times more as likely than white American children to have sleep apnea. Black American babies die of sudden infant death syndrome, or SIDS, 2.5 times as often as white American babies. And then the rest of it is basically a repetition of what was said. So the Most High God said He would give us these diseases of Egypt and the diseases that we don't even know about at this time. But we know about them today because we have the highest rates of most of these cancers and these sicknesses and these diseases that happen in America as a result of this punishment. No matter how hard we try to run away from it, we eat healthy, we exercise, stay away from smoking, we still get cancer because the Most High God is punishing us because of what we did to Him. Don't get depressed yet. There's more. Continue.
Verse 62. And ye shall be left few in number, whereas you are as the stars of heaven for multitude, because you did not hearken unto the voice of Yahweh your God. And it shall come to pass that as Yahweh rejoiced over you, to do you good and to multiply you, so will Yahweh rejoice over you, to cause you to perish and to destroy you. And you shall be plucked off from the land whither thou goest in to possess it.
So now, because of all of the racism, the murder, numerous upon the face of the earth, the Most High God said He will leave us few in number. And it said that, and it shall come to pass as Jehovah rejoiced over you to do you good and to multiply you. When we sin against Him, He will rejoice over us to cause us to perish and to destroy us. So we have turned that joy that the Most High God had in blessing us to that joy in punishing us, because we have turned aside from His way. But this verse also relates to something else in the Holy Scriptures. Isaiah 53, where in one, we read here that the Most High God will rejoice to do us evil. So when people try to figure out who Isaiah 53 is talking about, it says, verse time start from verse 8. Isaiah 53, verse 8. We start from there.
By oppression and judgment he was taken away, and with his generation who did reason. For he was cut off out of the land of the living, for the transgression of my people, to whom the stroke was due.
So we read about the oppression that caused and the judgment of the Most High God that caused the children of Israel to be taken away, and how our generations are cut off one generation after another. Continue.
And they made his grave with the wicked, and with the rich his tomb. Although he had done no violence, neither was any deceit in his mouth.
So even though we didn't do anything against the nations that attacked us, there was no violence done by us against them. We didn't speak against them. We didn't try to deceive them. We didn't do anything harmful unto them. Still, all these punishments were given unto us by their hands. Continue.
Yet it pleased Yahweh to crush him by disease, to see if his soul would offer itself in restitution, that he might see his seed, prolong his days, and that the purpose of Yahweh might prosper by his hand.
It's pleasing him, not that he's very happy to destroy it, but it pleased Yahweh to crush him, the children of Israel, by disease, to see if we would offer our soul in restitution. He's punishing us to see if we will return back to Him. When instead of returning to Him, we're going further and further into evil, and therefore we're going to receive more and more punishment. But yet it pleased Jehovah to crush him by disease, to see if his soul will offer itself in restitution, that he might see his seed and prolong his days, and that the purpose of Jehovah might prosper by his hand. We're going to go back to Deuteronomy 20, because it does continue to show hope for the children of Israel in Isaiah 53. But when people want to see who Isaiah 53 is talking about, you relate it to Deuteronomy chapter 28, which is clearly the children of Israel, which is clearly a black people that was carted off from Africa to be slaves worldwide. So therefore Isaiah 53 is talking about the children of Israel as well. Continue.
Verse 64, and Yahweh shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of the earth even unto the other end of the earth, and there thou shalt serve other gods, which thou hast not known, thou nor thy fathers, even wood and stone.
And once again, it goes right back into captivity. The Most High God scattered us from one end of the earth to the other end of the earth. Now, people relate and say that, well, because we are all over the earth. But one end of the earth to the other end of the earth is looking from one direction to the other direction. So we're scattered all throughout the Americas. If you're looking from the perspective of the land of Israel, we are scattered from North America to South America. That's the one end of the earth to the other end of the earth. Not talking about the four corners, which we read about in prophecy, but in here, God is saying he's scattering from one end of the earth to the other end of the earth. Once again, about 4 million going into Brazil, millions going into the Caribbean, and up to 1 million, close to 1 million, just coming to the Americas. And millions of us dying in the Atlantic Ocean alone. So the Most High God's prophecy or his punishment for the children of Israel didn't come to pass because he has scattered from one end of the earth to the other end of the earth. And here, we bow down to God's wood and stone. Christianity and all of the African religions, Yoruba, even today, people are going into Kemet, which has gods of wood and stone. All of the religions that we are going into have gods of wood and stone. But God already told us that we're supposed to call upon his name. And he has no image that we can see, no image that we can paint, no image that we can construct. We have to worship him alone for a clear mind. But if we don't, then he's going to force us into Christianity, into Yoruba, and into Kemet. Continue.
Verse 66. And your life shall hang in doubt before you, and you shall fear night and day, and shall have no assurance of your life. In the morning you shall say, would it were even, and at even thou shalt say, would it were morning. For the fear of your heart which you shall fear, and for the sight of your eyes which you shall see.
So, even in this country and in the Caribbean, we don't know if we're going to live the day that we live in. So we want to see the next day. So at night, we will hope it's morning because we want to make sure that we're still alive. During the day, the pressure is upon us so much that we just hope the day's over and we hope for the night to come. As we read earlier, that we are very depressed. That we have, going back to the mental health, the percentage of population feelings of nervousness or restlessness. So amongst black people, 3.8% of us are nervous all the time. Amongst white people, 4.9%. So they're more nervous than we are. Now with restlessness, 7.4% of black people are restless compared to 6.4% of white people. So we are more restless than anybody else because we don't know what's going to happen. We're living below that poverty. Most of us are living below that poverty level, and we don't know when that money is coming for the food that we want. We don't know when we're going to be able to find a place, if we're going to be able to stay in the place that we live in. We don't know if we're going to be able to find clothes to wear. If we get a chance for an interview, we don't even know how to find clothes for the interview that we're going to go with. So we're very restless, and these statistics are upon us because of the punishment of the Most High God. Continue.
Verse 68. And Yahweh shall bring thee back into Egypt in ships. By the way whereof I said unto thee, you shall see it no more again. And there you shall sell yourselves unto your enemies for bondmen and for bondwomen, and no man shall buy you.
And that once again only happened to one group of people that went into Egypt by way of ships. We'll explain Egypt just now, but only one group of people went through this type of situation. This is how angry that we made the Most High God, that we were carting off in ships laying next to each other. They just stuck us as close as they can to one another. And then this gives an overview, a top view of the boat, of the entire boat. These are all, I'll pass around, these are all people just stacked on the ship, on the bottom deck, and then the top deck, just going around the whole ship. So when you're looking at the ship, like you're on the, whatever you call the top part of the ship, and you're walking around, all you see is bodies laying all around the edge of the boat, just next to each other in chains, as it says earlier in the chapter. And then this gives you like a cutoff view of the decks of the ship and how we're stacked with each other. So that's how angry that we made the Most High God, that he caused us to be chained up and put on ships in this manner. Because this, as it says here, is only prescribed to the children, only to have the children of Israel. Yet this is the only thing that happened to us. Nobody else was carted off in ships like that. So it says we were going to Egypt by way of ships. Egypt to the children of Israel represented slavery. So when he's talking to a generation 40 years removed from the land of Egypt, and you hear the term Egypt, you're thinking about slavery, you're thinking about bondage, you're thinking about servitude. So God is saying he's going to send the children of Israel into bondage, into servitude into captivity by way of ships, which only happened to us. And also, this country has a lot of representation of Egypt within it. Without going into all of the mystics about it, we do know that the pattern of Washington, D.C. has a lot of the monuments that's designed around Egypt. On the dollar bill, you have a lot of representation of Egypt on the back, from the pyramid to the Eye of Ra on the top of the pyramid, and the other images, the falcon on the dollar bill. They will change the 20s to new 20s. They'll give you new hundreds, but that dollar bill with all those Egyptian symbols will always remain the same to let you know that we are still in the Egypt. So once again, from the dollar bill that we have to the patterns of the monuments and the layout of Washington, D.C., this is the Egypt that the Most High God is talking about, that he carted us off to by way of ships. And this only happened to black people and no one else for the face of the earth. So we're not happy that this happened to us, but we know that the Most High God brought this upon us because we did evil against him. And the only way to get out of it is to serve the Most High God with gladness of heart. And he said that here, we will sell ourselves. In the Hebrew, it said that we will sell ourselves, but no man will buy us. We go to look for a job to become a servant, and no one wants us. The rate today, percentage of unemployment is 9.6 of black Americans compared to 4.6 of white Americans. And that's just people, unemployment rate is based on people applying for unemployment. So that's not the guy that's on the corner selling weed on Lucy's, because he didn't apply for unemployment, but you can almost double that. So you could say that out of all the black Americans, 20% almost don't have jobs. Now, it also said that we would be bondmen and bondwomen. As a result of the freedom or emancipation from slavery, quote unquote, now we are in prison. Out of 2.3 million people in prison in this country, over 1 million of that is black people. So compared to all of the prisoners, almost half of the prisoners in this country are black, even though we're only 13 to 40% of the population overall. We almost are half of the population. So we try to sell ourselves, try to find jobs, but we become unsuccessful. But as a result of that, with the freedom of slavery, there's something that's said in the 13th Amendment. Let me find that real quick. So through the Emancipation Proclamation and then the amendments of the Constitution, the 13th Amendment says this: neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as punishment for crime thereof, the party shall be duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to jurisdiction. So slavery and involuntary servitude is now outlawed, but it has the clause except as punishment for a crime. So that's why they call us off to jail a lot, so that we can work. That's why a lot of us are in prison, and a lot of corporations benefit off of the prison system.
That's right.
Whole Foods is one of the #1 recipients of prison labor. They pay the prisoners about 70 cents per day to work for them. That's it. I read 73%. 73 cents a day. Whole Foods. For Whole Foods, they pay the prisoners 73 cents per day. Companies like Whole Foods, Walmart, AT&T, at least half of the corporations in America benefit directly off of prison labor. Almost 100% of the big corporations today actually exist because of slave labor. So no matter what, even if we try to boycott, there are some corporations out there that we're going to go to that benefited off of us through slavery, chain slavery, or prison slavery. So we see the world that we live in today, based on what the Most High God has put upon us because of what we did in this site, that slavery is still an acceptable form of labor when it's executed through the punishment of a crime, where the party is duly convicted. So you'll have the Cash for Kids program. You have 2 judges in Pennsylvania that were just convicted because they were taking bribes to send people to jail. Because the prisons, they need those people coming in, because the corporations are paying these prisons, because prison is no longer owned by the state or the federal government. It's owned by corporations. So in order to get the workers in there, they got to pay judges to convict us at a higher rate to put us in there to work for way below minimum wage. This is what we brought upon ourselves through disobedience to the Most High God. So that's why we can try to find a job, we can try to sell ourselves, but they won't buy us because they're going to sell us into slavery one way or another. Through the chain slavery that they did in the past, or through conviction and imprisonment that they do today. So no matter what, they're going to have us working for them. And some crime statistics. Just to see how much we are in jail. From 1980 to 2008, the number of people incarcerated in America quadrupled from roughly 500,000 to 2.3 million people. Today, the U.S. is 5% of the world population and has 25% of world prisoners. Combining the number of people in prison and jail with those under parole or probation supervision, 1 in every 31 adults, or 3.2% of the population, is under some form of correctional control. That's both black and white. Now, this for African Americans. African Americans now constitute nearly 1 million of the total 2.3 million incarcerated population. African Americans are incarcerated at nearly 6 times the rate of whites. Together, African American and Hispanics comprise 58% of all prisoners in 2008, even though African Americans and Hispanics make up approximately 1/4 of the U.S. population. According to Unlocking America, if African American and Hispanics were incarcerated at the same rates as whites, today's prison and jail populations would decline by 50%. 1 in 6 black men have been incarcerated as of 2001. 1 in 6, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you go like that, 1 in 6 black males are incarcerated in this country as of 2001. 1 in 100 African American women are in prison. So 1, 2, 3, 98 jail. 1, 2, 3, 4, 98, 99 jail. So 1 in 100 African American women are in prison. Nationwide, African Americans represent 26% of juvenile arrests, 44% of youth who are detained, 46% of the youth who are judicially waived to criminal court, and 58% of the youth admitted to state prison. So 50% of our youth are in state prison based on that last statistic. Drug sentencing. Because when they had, once again, when slavery is abolished, then they brought about the black holes, trying to figure out any way to put us in prison because the 13th Amendment said we could work for them, we were convicted. So they had laws, you don't have money in your pocket, you go to jail, you caught out too late, you go to jail. They found out any way to put us in jail. So in the 80s, they had the war on drugs, which was targeting us to try to get us in jail as well. About 14 million whites and 2.6 million African Americans report using illicit drugs. So 14 million whites admit to using cocaine, heroin, LSD, even marijuana, illicit drug, marijuana. 14 million whites admit to that. 2.6 million black people admit to using those drugs. However, 5 times as many whites are using drugs as African Americans. That's beyond those that admitted. 5 times as many whites are using drugs as African Americans. Yet, African Americans are sent to prison for drug offenses at 10 times the rate of whites. African Americans represent 12% of the total population of drug users, but 38% of those arrested for drug offenses and 59% of those in state prison for a drug offense. So there's more white people using drugs, but yet 58% of us are in state prison for using drugs. African Americans serve virtually as much time in prison for a drug offense, 58.7 months, which is about almost 5 years. So African Americans serve almost 5 years for a drug offense, as whites who do a violent crime at 61.7 months. So you can spend 5 years as a black man for doing drugs, and a white man who raped and murdered would also get 5 years. And 5 years for them for raping somebody. I think that guy from Subway just got about 5 years plus probation. And Michael Vick can't find a team to go on, because every time he goes somewhere, they protest him for him fighting some dogs. But you have somebody that admitted to raping children and gets jail, and some probation, pays some money after that. Bill Cosby never got convicted for anything. And this is face taken off of Disney. But this guy gets probation And after, a couple of years in jail, there's probation.
And you gotta pay
Just
$100,000.
and a fine. So these are the statistics that we see here, and that's why, along with, we know that we have to serve the Most High God. We know that we must do our best to do what's right in the sight, but also paying attention to these statistics, we have to try to stay out of jail as well, because our rate of going to jail is going to be much more than anybody else. Mandatory minimum sentencing, especially disparities in sentencing for crack and powder cocaine possession, there's a difference. Our minimum sentence is larger than the minimum sentence of a white person. In 2002, blacks constituted more than 80% of the people sentenced under the federal crack cocaine laws and served substantially more time in prison for drug offenses than whites, despite the fact that more than 2/3 of crack cocaine users in the US is white. So 1/3 of us use crack, 2/3 of them use crack, but 80% of us are in jail and 20% of them is in jail. 35% of black children grades 7 to 12 have been suspended or expelled at some point in their school careers, compared to 20% of Hispanics and 15% of whites. So even amongst the children, that last statistic they haven't been to a prison, but just detention, suspension of school, we get kicked out of school faster than white people get kicked out of school. So our records get tarnished from youth, and it follows us for the rest of our lives. So we have a lot to change in our lives. We have a lot to do in the sight of the Most High God in order to reverse all of this. We're thankful that the Most High God has protected us from a lot of these. But yet, as a nation, this attacks us, as you see here, larger than anybody else.
Verse 69. These are the words of the covenant Moshe to make with the children of Israel in the land of Moab, beside the covenant which he made with them in Horeb.
So that means that because some books actually make that the beginning of chapter 29, but that covenant the Most High God has made, that has made through Moses in the plains of Moab, encompassed the blessings and the curse for the children of Israel. So the fact that we are living under this punishment today is a part of the covenant of the Most High God. So we cannot separate the blessings from the curses, or from the obedience and the disobedience of the laws of the Most High God from the covenant of the Most High God. Continue.
Deuteronomy chapter 29, verse 1, hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
And Moshe called unto all Israel and said unto them, Ye have seen all that Yahweh did before your eyes in the land of Egypt unto Pharaoh, and unto all his servants, and unto all his land, the great trials which thine eyes saw, the signs and those great wonders. But Yahweh has not given you a heart to know, and eyes to see, and ears to hear unto this day. And I have led you 40 years in the wilderness. Your clothes are not waxed old upon you, and your shoe is not waxed old upon your foot. Ye have not eaten bread, neither have you drunk wine or strong drink, that you might know that I am Yahweh your God. And when you come unto this place, Sihon, the king of Heshbon, and Og, the king of Bashan, came out against us unto battle, and we smote them. And we took their land and gave it for an inheritance unto the Reubenites, and to the Gadites, and to the half tribe of the Menashites. Observe therefore the words of this covenant, and do them, that ye may walk, that ye may make all that ye do to prosper. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. So even after all of that, Moses still encourages the children of Israel, because he tells them that they saw all the great signs and the wonders that happened in Egypt. We saw that how the Most High God brought us out of Egypt with that great deliverance. So there's no reason for us to turn our back on God. So even though we hear about the punishments, we still have to be encouraged, and we know that the Most High God is with us, because he has done great things, bring us out of Egypt, and even more recently for the generation, defeating Sihon, the king of the Amorites, and Og, the king of Bashan, and allowing us to have their lands as a possession. So we know that the Most High God can do anything on our behalf, but he closes out by saying, observe therefore the words of this covenant and do them, and therefore you will make all that you do to prosper. So if we want to be prosperous in the sight of the Most High God, we have to make sure that we observe his commandments, the statutes, and his judgments, and live by them. And therefore, all of these punishments, all of the curses that he has already prescribed will be reversed. So we have to make sure that we don't only do this law for ourselves, but as it says concerning the prayer that we read about earlier, this is for the entire nation. So if 1 million of our people are in jail, just because we're free, we're still in jail with them.
Right.
If 1,500 babies are dying through abortion today, those are still our children. So if 16 million babies have died from 73 to now, that's 16 million people, 16 million of our people that are not alive. So imagine how much more numerous of a nation we would be with that 16 million that didn't die, if they didn't die in abortion, with the people that don't die through the homicide, the black and black violence. If we were to do this, those commands of the Most High God, go forth and teach that word and strengthen our people. So we have enough information to strengthen our people, to encourage our people to stay out of prison, stay away from drugs, to put away abortion, and ultimately seek to find favor in the sight of the Most High God. So we thank Him for life, we thank Him for strength and good health, and pray that He will continue to bless us and let us live. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
We give the Most High God thanks for our brother Chief Inyama.
Hallelujah.
For his message that he gave this day, which gave me more than enough to think about. That was a lot of statistics, brother. But they were good statistics that make us realize about how we're living and how God is dealing with us, and to make us understand how to avoid some of the pitfalls that are here in this captivity. And I realize that our time is extended this day. So I'm going to ask our brother Yosef to come forward and say a prayer for us before we close out for the second half. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Baruch Yehovah. Lord, by Yehovah for another day of life, yeah, for all the house of Israel. Lord, by Yah, for allowing us to be able to worship you, for allowing us to be able to survive another work week, yeah, to wake up on another Shabbat day. Lord, by Yehovah for keeping us all safe, yeah, throughout this destructive time. I ask you, Yehovah, can you please continue to watch over us, yeah, from the upcoming destructive times that's coming. Can you please hide us under your wing, God, that we know that you hear you bringing more plagues and more evil on this land, God, and around this world. As we see it every day in our lives, God. Lord, by Jehovah, for continue to bless all Israel, for continue to be with those, God, that's doing your laws and following your ways, God. I ask you, God, I pray to you, God. Can you please continue to be with the whole family, God? Can you continue to be with all the Israel? Can you continue to be with all the camps, God, that's trying, God? Can you continue to be with all the congregations? All praises, all glory to you, God. We fear you and only you, Jehovah. We praise you and only you, Jehovah. We worship you and only you, Jehovah. We bow down ourselves to you and serve you and only you, Jehovah. We call upon your name and only your name, Jehovah. You stand alone, God. You are alone. There's no other beside you, God. You and you alone can save. No one else can. You are the one true, only living power. Most High, everlasting, Elohim. Elohim of our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. All praises, all glory, all honor to you and only you, Lord. Hallelujah. Amen.
And at this time, I'll say the words of the blessing that the Most High God commanded to be said before his people, even in the times when we congregate before him, asking that the Most High God will look down upon us in heaven, see that we are doing his laws and commandments, and bestow blessing upon his people. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Why dabe Yehoah el Moshe lemor, dabe el Aharon ve el Benah lemor, kol tebaku et bnei Yisrael amor lehem. And Yehoah spoke unto Moshe, saying, speak unto Aharon and to his son, saying, on this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel. Ye shall say unto them, Yevareka Yehovah Yishmareka, Ya'ir Yehovah Panayah Leka Wekuneka, Yisap Yehovah Panayah Leka Weasem Leka, Shalom. May Yehovah bless thee and keep thee. May Yehovah make his face to shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee.
May it be God's will.
May Jehovah lift up his countenance upon thee, and may he grant thee peace.
May it be God's will.
Hallelujah. 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 We will conclude our Torah service. We will continue with the service we give to the Most High God this afternoon at 6 p.m. sharp. Let's say our own account.